The Matthew Dark Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, praise God and welcome in three major stories, really big stories. We want to start with Charlie Kirk. Of course, we just wrapped up the preliminary hearing, and that was a 5-day hearing. Now, we'll pick it back up in September. The defense, both sides will have some victories on this one. Here's what I found very unique, very unusual as we got through this evidence. And of course, the prosecution and the family and Erica is saying we want all this publicized. We'll talk about this in a second. Why would you want all this evidence publicized when you have so much reasonable doubt going on in this case? Why would you want that? We'll talk about that in a second. But of course, they are saying we have DNA. We have confession. His mother said he did it. The father said he did it. Lance Twigg, of course, the Honorable Lance Twigg said he did it. He did it. Fry the kid. That's what they want you to believe so far coming out of that wing. What I noticed with that wing of people, and they're on the right for sure. This is the left could care less about this situation. It all comes down to this great split we've had on the conservative right. But basically what we know is this, is the DNA is on the rifle and the towel. Now, here's the catch. That rifle is key to the entire prosecution. Why? Well, that's the 30-06, the famous 30-06 that they say came through here, hit his neck bone, and then ricocheted down into his body. That also is the weapon that they say he brought up the roof disassembled with a screwdriver. That screwdriver was used to reassemble his grandfather's 30-06. It had apparently been fired in World War II and passed down to the boy, and now he was going to use it to avenge the mistreatment of his lover, Lance Twigg, the furry community, the trans community. He felt like Charlie was very, very mean to that community. Charlie was very, very honest in that community that they are suffering from a mental illness and that they must seek that help out first, usually through the Lord Jesus Christ is the best place to start. But the idea was mental health, mental therapy for those people, not some affirmation that a man can become a woman by wearing a bathing suit and lipstick and stuffing his breast. These kind of things are ridiculous. Of course, that's the theme behind the prosecution. Charlie's hate had gone too far for Tyler Robinson and Lance Twigg, and he was going to take up arms and end this hatred. That is his mind. The concerning piece of evidence around the screwdriver, though, is, of course, the body cam dies. The cop that found it, the Utah cop that found it, body cam dies upon discovery of it. So he gets up onto the roof. Of course, Tyler has assembled now the 30-06. So let's set the stage on the roof. Tyler has reassembled the gun, scope and everything. Remember, this is a one-shot, perfect shot, done deal, in the prone position, taking the snipe, taking the shot. The cop, so he takes the shot, of course. Now then, he disassembles that rifle again to get off the roof. That's the famous video we see, the grainy footage of the figure running off the roof, of course, at the Low C Center at Utah Valley, jumps down that roof, but he left the screwdriver on the roof. The cop's going to find it here in just a moment. What we found also in this preliminary case is that the palm prints, the handprints upon him sliding down that building, this was a tremendous fall. How did we not break an ankle, a femur, something, a tibia, something on the fall? It was a big fall, high ceiling there, high roof. He fell down. The palm prints apparently on the way down do not match Tyler Robinson. Now, that is going to be a tricky one to get past because, of course, he's the only one we're looking at coming down there. He wasn't wearing gloves. That's confirmed. That palm print should have been his. It wasn't his. But anyways, he scurries off into the woods with the disassembled rifle. The cop then shows up on the roof. And of course, the body cam dies right before he finds the screwdriver that they say will have Tyler Robinson's DNA on it. There's a towel up there that has Tyler Robinson and Lance Twigg, although the wording from the DNA contributor analyst is that they were both possible contributors to the DNA. Okay, so we don't have firm. All we're talking about here, whether you think it's a done deal or not, we're talking about reasonable doubt. In America, we convict based on evidence, and that evidence needs to make beyond a reasonable doubt to get a conviction, certainly a death penalty, which is what they're going for in this case. Okay, so you have not confirming evidence. It would really be stunning to see this thing go to trial, because not only do you have to get past the 30-06, we'll show some photos here. They want to show us surveillance photos of Tyler that day on campus, and they want to show us photos of him at his mugshot, for example. Those are not the same people. Okay, I hope we're very, very clear on that. Those are not the same people. We have to absolutely question, okay, well, now how can this be? They said he did the outfit change several times. Of course, the blue jeans, the maroon shirt, that came on, that came off. But of course, the cop finds the screwdriver. Meanwhile, Tyler has run off into the woods. He reassembles, though, the rifle this time without the screwdriver. And he leaves it perched up in the woods under a tree, and then he takes off. Of course, we find him at Dairy Queen later and making confessions and the poetry and all of these things that they say could be attributed to Tyler Robinson that day. The confessions, there's some timing concerns with the confessions. Are these coming before or after his apprehension? The Discord ones would say they're after his apprehension. But of course, we're going off of the mother said he did it. The father said he did it. Lance Twigg said he did it. That is the prosecution's case. And of course, then this rifle. The rifle is the gun that they say killed Charlie. It is the gun that they say was fired on the roof, reassembled down in the woods. And it all rides on that stuff. And I just find it unbelievable, though, how many people on that MAGA right would say there is no question, not a shred of doubt should be in your mind. Tyler Robinson did this. Lance Twigg confirmed it. They're telling you almost now, don't believe your lying eyes once again. When Building 7 falls down like that after just catching on fire, it wasn't impacted, but just fell down there like an old man falling into a nice warm bath, just came down like that. Or maybe you've seen the old casinos come down demolition style in Las Vegas. Well, that's what that one was. But don't believe your lying eyes. That was actually an office fire that made steel, 40,000 tons of steel just kind of like this. And of course, we know that can't happen. And that was debated at the time, and they've never been held to account. We have closed the case, still have classified files around 9/11. Why is that? Why on earth, 25 years later, would you need classified files on 9/11? I mean, we immediately signed the Patriot Act. That's how we got TSA and DHS and all these new institutions, the spying, the FISA courts, that all came as a response to what we saw, the Twin Towers going down, and then the uncontacted building, Building 7, falling down 8 hours later. And it could have been more beautiful of a descent. I mean, just coming down like this. That, of course, can only happen with controlled demolition. So bombs were lined up that thing, dynamite were lined up that thing. That's how you take buildings down. Go pull up any old Vegas casino demolition, and you tell me that's not exactly what they did with Building 7. So we set that aside, because now we're supposed to believe all these anomalies colliding, converging at once to give us the perfect storm for a public assassination like Charlie's. We have to believe that the 30-06 would stop and ricochet and go down. We have to believe that Charlie's team wouldn't have an ambulance nearby on campus in their insurance, a requirement. This is how we do events here. We're not even considering if Charlie was going to be killed, but you have a big crowd out there that day. Somebody has heat, somebody has diabetes, you're not going to have any paramedics on site at all. It's going to take 20 minutes to get somebody. Why wouldn't you want to have one right there at the event? So of course we know that's not making sense. All the bizarre hand gestures, the phone calls, his staff acting as if they've practiced this. We can't look at that either. Don't believe your lying eyes. That's how those guys do a show. That's how they do an event. Move on. You're a crazy person and possibly anti-Semitic if you question. I wonder if that's really how they killed Charlie. I really wonder if it's Tyler Robinson. The moment you do that, you're anti-American, probably anti-Semitic, and you're certainly now a part of that brainwashed left that can't see reality. That's what the right has done to its own, and it's a shrinking group. It's a tiny group. The same group that has no problem with the Epstein cover-up is the same group that has no problem with the war in Iran. That same crowd that has no problem with Iran and the Epstein cover-up is telling you that under no circumstance could it be anyone other than Tyler Robinson. And if you dare question that, you are not a patriot anymore, and be off with you. That is the messaging coming from, and that's the group that Trump is a part of course. And we're going to talk more about Trump's role in how do we trust the government. He could make a phone call right now. I want to talk to Mitch McConnell, and I'm going to play it for the American people. And we're going to prove that some 88-year-old person, 88-year-old, 86-year-old corpse that's not voting, that's not doing anything strategic. There's going to be people that are claiming they're having conference calls with him, talking about what should we do with Iran and the budget and all this stuff. You're telling me that they're so tight-lipped of his health care, his health condition. He's also in the same capacity to make those kind of conversations, calls. And so we'll get into that in a second. But we have a lot riding on this Charlie Kirk murder case, because it's almost in the books. You can kind of bake it in. The government will go all in. The state will go all in. They absolutely have to have a conviction on this. The issue here, unlike 9/11, we're catching these guys in real time, in lifetime. We're getting more direct evidence to the specific issues we're having. 9/11, it was tougher to get access to that stuff. That was government. There was no charges. Any charges were going to be internationally, or when we brought those criminals back over here, the Arab people that we said did it. But this is different. We have court, we have it on TV, we have cameras, and we knew it was BS from the day we saw it, heard it, and they told us this story. 33 hours, we apprehended him. He was so scorned by the way Charlie had talked about the trans community. And this is the guy, everybody shut up, and we're doing it. Remember, J.D. Vance snatches the body 2 days later, goes to Utah and takes Charlie's body back to Washington. We're not supposed to ask any questions about this conduct and this behavior. And then I also find it just amazing that if this is truly what happened, and there you have that much conviction, why are you even paying attention to these people that would even say something so nutty like maybe it wasn't Tyler Robinson, maybe there was something else going on? I mean, why are you so defensive, it feels, on every single question we have about what happened to Charlie? Don't you want to know anyways? Why would you just take the government's word for it right out of the gate? They're known liars, habitual liars. This is what they do the best of any group of any participants. This is the best group of liars that you'll find anywhere in the world, right here in our own Congress, right here in our own institutions like the DOJ, the FBI. Why Kash Patel is involved, you have no idea. We have no idea what he's doing. He won't give us Epstein. He's perjured himself. Of course, Todd Blanche. I mean, why are we just taking these guys' word for it? Are you kidding me? You're going to take a guy's word for it who's actively covering up the greatest crimes America's ever had, the sex trafficking of children to billionaires, and you're going to take that guy's word for it? Are you nuts? We demand more information, and we demand actually, like, what's wrong with you people? Don't you want to know? Don't you want to know why how on earth does his shirt puff up first and the bullet go out this way and he does this? Don't you want to know how on earth could that happen when you say it was a rifle from the opposite direction? I mean, don't you want to know? I'm sure they're telling the truth, but let's just verify. How's that sound? My goodness, these are politicians. They're not your pastor. And we can see in the news all the time, not even they are above fallacy or sin. And that's the whole thing. We're trusting man so much. And these men that we're trusting don't trust the Lord Jesus Christ. So you can't do that. You can't follow a man like Donald Trump who doesn't follow the Lord and behaves as such. Why would you just trust people like Kash Patel, who's an active Hindu worshiping demons all the time? And you just take his word for it. Why? Because he used to be MAGA first and wanted to get the Epsteiners, and now he's out of there. I mean, excuse me. Excuse me. That's just not the way we're going to be able to proceed with these guys. We're going to verify every word out of your mouth because we don't trust it's sincere. We think you have other motives like cover-ups, murder, and sex trafficking. So we're going to keep an eye on this. I think the state really just needs Tyler to die in custody. I think that would be the best for him. Basically, an Epstein moment, some kind of thing like this, where he just can't take the pressure. He's been so exposed. He feels so bad what he's done to Lance, and he just hangs himself. I mean, I think that's the go-to if this thing starts to get scary, starts to look like, holy cow, we could get exposed. And again, as soon as the curtain comes back on any of these things, 9/11, the COVID shot, 2020 elections, Epstein, this thing, is the Iran war, as soon as we start to get, just We busted you live in real time, lying to us. Now we're questioning everything. That moment is coming. I mean, you can only lie to us so many times before we say, okay, we're done here. And that's what we're reaching. I want to go to the next story. Mitch McConnell, of course, it's been a month now where we've had kind of this. Now, what's going on with Mitch? Where is he? He's being taken out on a stretcher. Of course, Mitch McConnell is retiring at the end. So his seat, he leaves this seat in January 2027. Okay, so not a lot of skin left in the game. Man is 86 years old. He's looked like a corpse. Remember, he was doing the famous freezing. Excuse me. He was doing the famous just freezing. He'd be in the middle of a sentence. Wake up. They couldn't wake him up. Mitch McConnell freezing mid-sentence, also voting on should we do more bombs, should we do more spending? Really shouldn't be driving a car, probably doesn't drive a car, but does have the capacity to do that. So we're going to keep our dibs on that for sure. But here's the catch. Here's what's going on. And this is why this is so fascinating. And they're up to something. We believe on this show, he is dead or in a state that you cannot do anything with, a corpse, a brain dead person on a life support machine. That's probably more likely than the stories they're telling us right now. Now, what are they telling us right now? Well, Thune, John Barrasso, Scott Jennings. Oh, he sounded strong. Y'all, he sounds good. We're talking business. We're talking Iran. We're talking spending. He sounds like he's 65 years old again. That's what they want us to believe here as they come out and say this. And again, if President Trump was like, oh, no, I run everything here. And, I've never liked Mitch McConnell, but if there's something going on that could have impact to my presidency, I'm going to find out. I want Mitch McConnell on the phone, and we're going to broadcast it. And we're going to just let the people know. And I'm going to ask him, hey, we're coming up on you're missing a lot of votes here, and we're sorry you're down. Just want to check in, make sure you're doing okay. What's going on, man? And that should be a phone call that he's eager to take, able to take. Why are you being so secretive about this? His staff is being so tight-lipped, but they're giving, I spoke with him. He's doing fine. So look, what would be so embarrassing of a healthcare condition for Mitch McConnell at 86 years old? He's in awful shape, just a sloppy old loose thing. And we're going to be like, well, he has high blood pressure and we weren't supposed to know that. Are you out of your mind? There's nothing that he could currently be experiencing that would shock us or stun us or be like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. Prostate cancer. Are you kidding me? Of course, we'll be praying for Mitch McConnell's swift recovery if he has that kind of illness. But why are you being so secret? Why are you playing the games with can't talk to it? Why can't you have a press conference? And if he is so strong, as these people are saying here, they're reporting, wouldn't he just do the courtesy of his own state, his own Kentuckians, and say, hey, guys, I'm with you. I love you. I'm going to be there till that very last shift in January of 2027. Thank you so much. Why can't he do that? I mean, what on earth would be preventing that? But here's some implications. The implications are as such, is that if he is in fact dead by August 1st, special election will happen. If he dies after August 1st, of course, that seat will remain vacant until the winner of the primaries in November takes his seat, his office in January. So there's a lot on the line because you have a thin margin in the Senate already, 53-47. This would be 52-47. And then, of course, you could have special election in which now you have Thomas Massie as somebody who already has statewide recognition, he already has money in the coffers because there is much support around him in a future candidacy. And so we know he could have a U.S. Senate seat, be right back in front of Trump before day's end. Now, there's going to be some tough things to calculate as far as special election and then the midterm. Would it both be together? They're going to have to figure that out because that is a deadline coming. But if he is in fact dead, and these people that are pretending they've had conversations with him and telling us how strong he is, how wise he is, never sound better, that kind of person, that has to be an impeachable offense if it's a government official. It has to be a jailable offense or some kind of termination from any source of media broadcasting to spit out that kind of a lie, a known lie. He's dead. You're telling us he's not. You knew he was dead. We have a serious problem. But if he is alive, Have you ever had a moment like this to demand term limits as the American people? Ever? Can you think of one anytime? We've had, of course, some really, crypt-like Canada, Senate and House of Representatives come through. Dianne Feinstein, I mean, holy cow, this is Tales from the Crypt. They're wheeling her around in a wheelchair and just doing like this. Mitch McConnell's the same thing. He has to have people on his side all the time. He's as old as my grandmother. She doesn't drive. He shouldn't be voting on Iran or spending or anything that affects the future of this country. And of course, he's always hated Trump. So it's unbelievable. And Trump says he has no idea, like he doesn't care. Like this isn't a big deal. So again, we're going to have to peel back again. If you're lying to us, and why? What is in it for you? And so we don't necessarily know, other than I don't think Trump would want to risk a special election with Thomas Massie in the state, already the best known. Well, and there's probably not enough time to get an AIPAC candidate. There's probably not enough time to pretend that they're going to have to do that again right in front of our face. Here comes 35 million from Miriam Adelson, and we have another AIPAC person in the Congress. And so that has to end immediately. Of course, it's not even debated. Of course, AIPAC stole that election. They outspent, and then they just took it. And there was no problem with Thomas Massie. But of course, Thomas Massie had a problem with Trump not wanting to give us the files. Why play the games with the files? We have a law that says, and you signed it, Donald Trump. You signed the law that says, here they are. Now, maybe you didn't like what was going to come out of, but there was no problem. It was only one person, Clay Higgins, Louisiana, that wouldn't sign that bill, said, no, we shouldn't release these names of these people that hurt children. What a strange person that would be to meet, that said, but again, listen to me now. That's that same mind where you have that person, and it's typically a boomer, typically a MAGA all in, Trump first, Christ second, or lower even, that kind of person. So what do they need? They need an Epstein cover up. And if this is what I hear the most online, if you in fact say, hey, let's see the files, not even indicating that we think Trump is in them. We don't care if Trump is in them. Okay, because there's others in there. We don't care if it was somebody your uncle knew, if it was a Republican, Democrat, the first trans person elected. We don't care the group they fell in. You raped a kid, we're going to try you, convict you, and then we absolutely must hang these people. And so we're trying to get to the business of the people right now by doing that. But then we've got these blockades. We've got games being played all the times. And the boomer MAGA person says, if Biden had these files for 4 years, and if Trump was a part of it at all, it would have come out. That's the classic one they give us. And that one doesn't fly because, again, Trump isn't the star of the Epstein files. He very well is going to be in there. It's going to be very embarrassing, I'm sure. The birthday card was embarrassing. I mean, the photos that he's had with Jeffrey have to be embarrassing for him, haunting for him. Probably would regret those, take those back if he could. I'm just guessing. Now that we found Epstein to be the greatest cover-up of all time. This is American history. We've had some really, really good ones. JFK, MLK, the moon, 9/11. We've had some good ones. This is the greatest cover-up of all time. There's no doubt about it. And we, the people, we demand, sorry, not on our watch, because again, we're doing this in real-time, lifetime, not like JFK 60, 70 years later, 9/11 25 years later, still aren't addressing it. We're talking about doing it right now. We've caught you red-handed. The law says give us all. Now, I want to talk about that then. July 2nd, federal judge said the DOJ is in violation of federal law for withholding or the over redactions. So everything they're holding on to is currently being improperly redacted, and they must undo that. Really, that was July 2nd. They had to do that. And of course, they didn't do that. Todd Blanche says we've complied with every aspect of that law and that we're not going to be releasing anymore. We're good. We're done. Now you have a really hot battle in which the White House and the Department of Justice wants nothing to do with this. That is so clear right now. Again, I go back to that same boomer MAGA voter. And we were once like this with the boomer MAGA. It was all one because we said we'd get the Epstein files. We said we'd deport the criminals and the aliens. We said we'd work on inflation, no new wars. We all agreed on that. And then he got in the second time and we changed teams. And now we're doing this other thing over here where we cover up crime. We do wars, very expensive still here in America. So we're not going in the right direction. So we have a split. It's not a good split. The group that is now dominant on the Epstein cover up was really that group that got Donald Trump in the first time, mushed in with the rhinos, the neocon, the establishment guy. They've kind of mushed and made this icky, filthy stew that they've put together. And it requires the cover up of the Epstein files, support of the Iran war. And then you always have to go with Tyler Robinson as the killer of Charlie Kirk. That same mind, you'll find they have to. And that's why they're so upset and so frustrated, because that's a conflict. It's like, well, hold on a second. Do I really believe the government is telling me the truth in all of these? And then they say, well, okay, well, hold on. I don't want to go to the Iran war, but I believe it was Tyler Robinson that killed Charlie Kirk. Isn't that person okay? No, they're not okay, because they're still believing this incredible lie. We're going to go through just throughout this experience with this trial, because we're going to actually see an innocent man. And I mean innocent. He's not the shooter with a 30-06 that killed Charlie Kirk. That's what I mean innocent from. I don't know his behavior. If he's running around with Lance Twiggs, of course he's sinning. He's doing a terrible job. It's really gross to think of those two. But again, we have no idea what we're being told. This whole thing's been a lie. The 30-06, the weird signs, the fact that they had to, just 4 days later, we simply must pull up the grass 10 inches deep, lay concrete over it. This was just the scene of an absolutely incredible assassination, and you need it dug up. The crime scene's good to go. 4 days over it, and the governor needed it. Why? You don't find that strange? Of course you find that strange, but it's conflict because you already are committed to Tyler Robinson did it. But then we get all these weird things. We get the weird stuff like this guy had no record. This was like an ice cold killer. Day one, try one, unnatural, right? Because not only did he put that gun together, get that scope and nail it first shot, he disassembled that summer gun just like that. He got down that roof, shimmied over the woods, put it together without a screwdriver this time. Okay. For anybody who thinks they can do it, you just try it. Tyler did it. He goes to Dairy Queen, cool as a cucumber, gets the blizzard. I think he got a little snack too, but it looked like, and then he goes and turns himself in. I'm so sorry, Lance, I've done this. And so, I mean, those are all so hard to get your mind around. And then your eyes are already lying to you. Because again, this is an exit wound, not an entrance wound. The state will tell you 30-06 hits the neck, goes down. It's hard to believe. It's the exact same phenomena that's going on right now that when we saw Building 7 fall down like that. And we looked at it and said, that can happen, right? That I saw what just happened, right? That's the same thing here. They're doing it again, although we caught them this time on the fly, in the moment. You're not getting away with it. So if Mitch McConnell, at best, totally incapacitated, most likely dead, they're going to play games with the dates. August the 3rd has to be the drop dead date for Mitch McConnell. Or if he dies after it, the seat goes vacant until his replacement wins in November. It's just because they have to be questioned on everything. You see how hard it is to believe some of these stories. What are the odds at this? And so what's the game they're playing? Well, they don't want anybody to counter what Trump wants to get accomplished. So they very well be fine, letting him pass. But again, you risk the threat of an outsider getting in, coming in, like a Thomas Massey, sneaking a spot into the U.S. Senate. So we have high expectations to be betrayed, lied to, and we want to know why on earth we're playing games with the health of Mitch McConnell. Okay, we're all paying that salary. We're all a victim of his choices, his voting. You say you pulled him out into a stretcher. We know he's super old, looks like hell, terrible shape. Can you confirm, please, just out of kindness, that he's doing okay, would you? And they won't seem to be able to do that. So we think something's going on. And of course, there most likely is. This is government, folks. Always something going on. Now, Epstein files, we're now in a stalemate. Let's just make sure we know where we left off to the moment. This show will always never stop talking about Jeffrey Epstein, never stop talking about those who were involved. Leon Black, Les Wexner. See, both of them, this is what's so fascinating about this. These are billionaires. These guys they had so much money, they were actually able to give things like a $70 million condo. Les Wexner gave Jeffrey a $70 million condo in New York City. He gave him power of attorney. Jeff Epstein had power of attorney for Les Wexner. He was the chairman of his nonprofit, his board. Of course, it only supported Jewish interests, a huge Zionist, of course, Les Wexner, billionaire. He was duped by Jeffrey. Now, Jess Staley, Leon Black. Jess Staley is in him, but Leon Black, who just recently testified, who did business in the upwards of 170 million with Jeff Epstein, he also claimed to have been duped. Okay. Bill Gates has acknowledged, he was manipulated to be hanging out with Jeffrey. He regrets his decision. He felt like he was duped. Okay. So we have all these wealthy men being tricked by Jeffrey. And it's almost as if, is this an anomaly, a one-time thing in those men's lives? Because typically billionaires don't get swindled for that kind of cash. I mean, just sucked hundreds of millions of dollars from these people, and they didn't see it coming. They somehow felt, no, well, they did see it coming, because once he got them involved with the children and had them compromised with the children, paying money was no problem from there. You didn't have a choice at that point. Okay. So this was all a part of what he was doing. Again, we're talking about co-conspirators here. We're not saying Donald Trump is the star of the Epstein files. We're saying that there are men mentioned that are saying things that indicate they harmed a child. When are you going to address those crimes? What are we waiting for? That's all. So to that baby boomer MAGA person, we're not trying to offend the president. We wish the president would be a little bit friendlier on the topic, but he's not. And the law says he has to be. The law says he got to fork him over, no matter how embarrassing. And so we're just here to collect on that, because it was important that when we drain the swamp, if you remember, drain the swamp, that was the slogan. This is the swamp. You must cleanse it right now with the Epstein files. So that's what we're asking for as we follow Epstein files, Charlie Kirk case, Mitch McConnell. Okay. We have a major storm brewing. Of course, we're back into war with Iran. And of course, the Iran deal is off because they say they fired on a friendly commercial vessel and they can no longer sell legal oil. So they're right back to the Stone Ages where they've been for so many years up to the conflict. Trump was going to let them sell to the world legally at market, whatever they could fetch, for 60 days while they worked out the nuclear deal. Now, that was going to be a permanent part of the deal. Iran was always going to join the ball game when it comes to selling oil around the world. That was always going to be a part of this deal. They would never go back to the black market stuff they had to do. So that's off the table. The Strait of Hormuz is, of course, closed, getting less than 4 ships through a day. They are being fired on. We are back at it. I want to make sure we see the series of events. We have the Epstein files, federal order. We have bombing started. Trump is now saying that these guys are wackos. These guys are crazy. I can't do business with them. Okay. So there's really no way to proceed forward than with his plan to annihilate the civilization, right? So they always, the media here and the far right and all these people that are so scared of Iran, it was always the famous, death to America chant, right? Isn't that the one they spit out over and over? And they tell us, hey, listen, these people said death to America. Nuke them, right? That's the whistle, the chant, the here we go. Don't forget, these people said death to America. And so because of that, they've got that ingrained that no matter what happens, they can't have a nuclear weapon. Remember, like that grandmother that can't fall asleep at night, she's supposedly suffering because she just can't stand the idea that Iran might have a nuclear weapon one day. She can't take it. Doesn't necessarily see it going on here, right? Doesn't necessarily see the problem here at home, the poverty, the crime, the inflation, the corruption, the education, all these things. She's worried about Iran and the nuclear weapon. Okay, that's really, and it's because the media told her to be. Politicians reinforced it. Donald Trump is now all in on that slogan that these people are wackos. They can never. And I think Donald Trump in his mind is convinced no matter how bad this ends, He still did the right thing. Because in his mind, because of what he did, his bold, courageous act to go into Iran, blow out the bunkers. Remember, of course, we sent the bombers over. The bombers took out the nuclear program. They said it. He said it. And he said peace would break out. It did, and it got worse. Right? But we're now all in over here. If they said death to America before this, how do they like us now? Do you think we made peace here? Do you think we grew in friendship, or is there increased hostility? I don't know. I think you know the answer. I think Donald Trump knows the answer. I think we understand that the enemy now is pissed, and now they have reason to be pissed. Whether you like Iran or not, I would never go to Iran. Are you kidding me? Muslim and all this. They're worshiping a demon, worshiping Muhammad, worshiping a false prophet. Okay, so they're in sin, of course. Of course, I could care less about Iran. I could care less about Israel, the secular nation of Israel. The secular, of course, is the main theme of that. Tel Aviv is actually, of course, you all know this, Tel Aviv being the homosexual capital of the world, Tel Aviv, Israel. And if Bibi Netanyahu demanded rigorous Judaism and holiness, he would never tolerate a major city in his country to be homosexual to that degree. Are you kidding me? This is the Jewish people, God's people. They tell us it all the time, and God doesn't allow the homosexuality. So this is terrible. And when leaders give their people over to sin, you can pretty much know you're in end times. Of course, end times start when Jesus left, but of course, we can always smell like we're getting closer when we're actually applauding. Hey, here's these two guys that want to go, make out. Not cute. We're all supposed to cheerlead that. And of course, it's not cute. And of course, we do find that that's only demonic activity going on in that. A man could look at another man and be attracted to another man in that way. I mean, only a demon could convince you of something like that, right? And that's no offense to the mothers with children that are homosexual. I believe there's a lot of hope, and it's Jesus Christ for something like that. And so I just would urge those mothers, it's not your fault, Mom, anymore. There's somebody much bigger and greater than you that can take this burden from you. But the first thing is you got to get rid of that pride. Okay. You got to enter humility and say, we got to get him some help. He's only 25. He was confused as a boy. And we know we screwed up and all these things, but we don't think he's truly a homosexual. And you get him into fellowship, and you get him in front of the Lord Jesus Christ and men that are following him. And I bet you can get a straight son out of that. I just say that just as an option. If you've just kind of hit a bottom there with it, Mom, and you're like, how am I gonna? I heard a father once online, he just describe your hardest day ever. And the guy said, the day I found out my son was gay, or he told me he was gay. And I think that's probably, I couldn't think of more devastating news as a parent. So we have full empathy, sympathy, support, prayers, love, because I couldn't imagine a greater sadness, disappointment, tragedy than such a thing. I'd be devastated. I'd be broken. I bless your heart, because but there's a better way out of that. It's not continuing that lifestyle. It's just not for anybody. So, we urge them and we move on from there. But we have the Epstein files moving. We have defiance at all-time highs. We have deceit at all-time highs, folks. So we're just going to keep them to account. That's always, hey, no government is beyond being checked, and checked hard by its people, certainly not the United States. So do this until next time. Serve the Lord Jesus Christ. Tell a friend about him. Stay good. God bless everybody.
The Matthew Dark Show, your one-stop show for truth, courage, fellowship, and faith. Available everywhere you get your podcasts.